So tonight we have 4 departments presenting, and I apparently didn't read this right. Right, it's there. There we go. Tonight we have 4 departments presenting. We've got starting off with Public Works, then we'll have Solid Waste, Police Department, and then followed by last but not least, the Fire Department.
There's a shift in the numbers, one to pages 14, 15, 25, and 26.
It's actually page 27 would be the Public Works budget.
27, you said?
Yeah. And without further ado, I will call up current Public Works Director, Dennis Collins.
Thank you. Before I get started, I just want to introduce the new Public Works Director, Matt Hunter. Hello. His new assistant will be Josh Dennison. Josh is here.
Welcome.
Good luck with the budget I get you tonight, fellas.
This is the last one, so look out.
It's gonna be lean.
Starting out with the personnel, director, deputy director, foreman, administrative assistant, 1 mechanic, and we presently have 5 drivers because we're short 1. One left us here within the last couple of weeks. If you live on that lucky street, you won't be plowed this storm. Highlights from last year, the department rebuilt Elm Street on the south side, including the curbing work, driveway entrances, and we rebuilt the entire 1,000 feet of sidewalk on that side. When we were done, we went in and we overlaid the street itself. That was a 2-year project. We'd done the north side the year before with the curbing work. Foreside Road, we extended the guardrail down past the Legion, added guardrail to help the pedestrian safety on that sidewalk. And then we paved a couple entrances into that parking lot now, so it'd be dirt, so it helped control the traffic and pedestrians in that area out there to make it safer. It's not just a free run to the playground now. They've got to get through the openings that we created. Tedford Road, we replaced the culvert this past fall with an open bottom type box culvert. And that was a great project. Get behind us. Those 2 4-foot culverts had completely failed by the time we got there this fall. So it's a great project to have behind us now. The engineering and the design work has been started for the Tedford Road sidewalk project. We'll be rebuilding that road and doing sidewalk work, creating the sidewalk on one side. That's probably a project that'll take us a couple of years to fund. And then, so construction season's looking about 2027 right now. If it works out for us. Last year we paved Western Avenue, Ward Road, Pitch Pine, Old Farm Road, White Street, Madeline Ave, West Merrill, and Old Augusta Road. And we've got a couple, 3 streets that we're going to finish up in the spring that are also on our paving list for this past fiscal year. And in between, we repaired and serviced approximately 4 dozen storm drains and replaced over 500 feet of culvert pipe. That includes driveway culverts, things like that we did that have failed. Proposed budget changes. The street sign account has been heavily used. It's to replace the street signs themselves, the signs that are on to label the streets, but it's also all our traffic signs, notices, rules and regulations, and the public signs like that we do. For instance, the rules changed in regards to crosswalk signs. There used to require a crosswalk sign on the side facing the oncoming traffic. Now they're required on both sides of the road in both directions. So instead of 2 signs, it takes 4 now at crosswalk. So things like that happen. So that's where we spent more money than we anticipated. contractual line is being cut by $1,000 to reflect more of the actual. That was where if we needed to use legal counsel for something, things like that. We haven't had that problem, so we're gonna reduce that by $1,000. Building maintenance, we'd asked for $500 more for plumbing and heating. The building's getting older, there's some more maintenance to be done. We have 13 overhead doors, and anybody with garage doors at home, one shot can wipe out that $500 with a spring brakes or things like that. Road striping, we're asking for $5,000 more, and that's just to cover the expense of the materials and the additional line painting that we'll be doing. Additional line painting, like the roundabout now that's over in front of Market Basket. That's all new striping to us that hadn't been budgeted before. So all that work will need to be done now. And finally, we're asking for more money in our salt account just because of what we're using, because of the type of winters we're having. This year we've seen more snow, but in the past it's been more ice. So the product's being used. The upside to that is it helps us to spend less time in the springtime cleanup with street sweeping. Instead of having a lot of winter sand down on the roads and things like that, by using salt, it gets rid of the snow and the ice, and it's not left around in the shoulders and in the ditches to clean up in spring. Kind of a catch-22 for us.
How's our reserves on ice melt or salt right now?
We're about 67% expended.
Okay.
So with the 2 loads I've got ordered, it just to answer that question a little further, it's been an interesting winter. The storms up the coast, our salt comes from South America. And with the coastal storms that we've had from Florida all the way up through the Atlantic, it's been tough getting ships in. And then we've had problems with this port in Portland being froze up. So at one point we were starving for salt. We were conserving something awful. But it's back up. We've got 2 loads ordered, so we'll be at about 75% here in the next couple of weeks. With about a month and a half winter to go. Yeah.
Question about salt. Is there any extra cost involved in salt amelioration when it's all done? It has to run off somewhere. Do we have a big problem with water contamination because of the salt?
We don't. We work with the state. One of the projects we've worked with the state on is through the mall area. And by calibrating our trucks and minimizing the amount of salt we use what we need to, but we don't oversalt. So we don't have a contamination problem in our community at this point. Yes.
Back up to the previous slide when you talked about capital projects, the Tedford Road reconstruction.
Yes.
Sidewalk will be on one side of the street, is that correct?
Correct.
And which side is it?
It's
South or north side?
well, it's going to sure we do it be the west side. It's going to be on the
West side.
same side as Topsham Crossing.
Oh, yes, okay.
It makes better sense to us to put it over there with the idea we would have crosswalks into those developments over that side. The folks are already on that side, so we'll come down past Rusty's store and continue up.
Thank you.
Talking pavement, a lot of you folks have seen this slide before with me, but I like it because it helps to explain visually that if we don't maintain our streets during the early years, like the first 10 years, well, it's got a pothole. If we patch the pothole, repave a street, it costs us less money than if we wait out there 15, 20 years and then have to rehabilitate a street. Once the street starts to fall apart, if we don't get after it early on, like the first 10, 12 years, it almost triples in cost by waiting later on in life. We've done real well, the community has, in keeping after our street paving. Proud to say that when you drive through Millinock or through Topsham right now, they're
Wrong
on
town.
How about
Did
that one?
retired early over here.
Wow. When you drive through a community, we don't have a lot of potholes. You know, we really don't. Neighboring communities have some different situations compared to we do. It's because you've kept up on your street paving. Thank you for that.
Dennis, a few years ago, you did a plan that just made a lot of sense with the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee and Town Manager. And it's helped aid our roads because they were not in good repair until you and everybody worked on that and did a plan out, so there'll always be money. So, thank you.
No, you're welcome, but thanks for supporting the idea, because that's what made it work. This year's proposed streets. Let me back up. The upper four roads that are listed there are what's left in this construction season, in this year's paving. So in the spring, we'll pave those other four roads. And just to point out, Cat Ants Road and Forsyth Road are sections of that road that we'll be paving. You know, we really can't go out and pave that entire road. We'd use up our whole budget in just that one road in the community. So we do a section this year, a section next year, and keep building off of that. So over a few years, we'll have that whole road paved. The proposed streets, as you can see, Danielle Drive, Chad, Anthony, Patricia, that neighborhood is in need of being repaved. Topsham Crossing, we knew it was gonna need it, but we waited until the apartment project was done, work like that over there. And now we'll get this area paved before we pave in Tedford Road, and that should get that whole area, that whole neighborhood will be in good shape. Hemlock, and then we're going to continue paving on Forsyth and Cat Ants, and we're going to include Home Place. Later on this year, is in the spring of 28 is when we'd be looking at doing that, because during this summer of 27, this fiscal year, the beginning of that our current proposed fiscal year, we'd like to do some drainage work over there. Folks that are familiar with it, it's a flat area and there's a lack of drainage, especially in the springtime coming up, because the snowbanks kind of create dikes and the water can't get off the road. So we want to put in some under drain and get rid of that surface water before we pave, and then we'll come back and pave that road in. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, on the Cat Ants Road, the remainder for this year. In that budget, or just the remainders, is there grinding paving, or is it just paving over the top of it?
On Cat Ants and Forsyth, it is not including grinding.
Okay.
But it does include shimming. So some of the areas that have like wheel ruts and things like that will shim. And then we'll put overlay
Got it.
to bring back that ground in the road for drainage.
Is Adams Landing in the same situation? The beginning of that road is pretty cracked and.
Correct. We'll shim first. There's a
Alright.
couple of utility cuts in that road as well. So we're gonna be shimming that, and then we'll come back to the surface.
And the last question on that in the budget. Does the budget include, I know on the side of Cat Ants Road specifically, there's like 4 layers of road showing before the dirt on the sideline. Will that budget include creating a little bit of a shoulder there, or are we gonna leave the road exposed like it is?
No, we'll be coming back and backing up the new pavement and the existing pavement, and that's part of the reason why we got that new cross conveyor
Yep,
that we just purchased and took delivery on. So we could come in now in a more economic fashion, be able to come in and make some time and put those shoulders back together for us.
perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
I walked that road and it was just, I just wait for
Yeah.
the water to wash out underneath and get
Yep.
underneath the road right there, and I just know that's gonna, like you always say, it's gonna cause more damage than. More
Thank you, we're my pretty good.
expensive.
It's the other half, I know what it is. There's nothing for it.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you were done this past summer, I guess.
Yeah, we're gonna get on today.
Dennis, you want to address the fact that we had a paving backlog and that's pretty much all caught up?
Yes, something we've been working through for a couple, 3 years now, was back with COVID was even here. We had a problem where we had a list of streets, you folks funded it, and we couldn't get the work done by Crooker or by a paving company, period. And that was because of the lack of getting help and all that type of scenario. This past year, Crooker's worked diligently with us and for us, and we've caught up now to the point where we're really only working on this year's funding in the spring. We've caught up now to that backlog of monies that we had and the backlog of work that didn't get done. So I'm happy to say thank you, Mark, that we've caught up to that now. So we're back on track with our schedules. Capital equipment replacement, we're looking to replace a 2012 plow truck. And we're looking to purchase a new pickup and replace the lawnmower trailer that we have down there. We use a lawnmower trailer to move our equipment around from roadside mowings, town office, library, things like that we get our equipment to. We're currently asking for $186,000, and our request this year for that budget of $386,000, because we still have roughly $200,000 in the reserve. things that we didn't spend because we came under budget with plow truck purchases and things like that.
Is that on this sheet under, for you under Public Works or is that? under-
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow, okay.
So when you purchase a, or if you purchase a plow truck, does that come with, is that including plows, wings and everything, or do you transfer the gear onto a new?
No, when we purchase a truck, we purchase it with all new gear and everything. We don't transfer our gear. We found that my experience with it is that if you hang old gear on a new truck, two things happen. You've got equipment that's worn and you're gonna have to start maintaining it for one, but two, by hanging new gear, we're keeping up with the technology and the materials that are available now. And quite often, those materials are better materials than what was done years ago, but and technology. Instead of having the old cables in the cab, which were dangerous, then they went to hydraulics in the cab. If you had an accident, you had hydraulics in the cab. Now we're electronics over hydraulics. The hydraulics are outside and the electronics are in the cab. So we tend not to use old plow gear. We use new gear.
What do you do with the old gear?
It goes with the truck, we trade it. So it helps,
Oh, okay.
it helps add cost, add value to our trading. I think that's it.
Question about,
Bill?
about the maintenance line, vehicle maintenance.
Yes?
So we've never gone over 100,000 since 2023. We budgeted it this year. 120, we're currently expending at 43. With 6 months to go, yet we're still proposing 120 for next year. Do we expect to be spending $60,000 in maintenance in the next 6 months?
I hope not, but I can only share with you today that when we do have an expense, they're no longer a simple filter change. They're usually electronics or emissions. And we're looking at usually somewhere around $5,000 to $6,000 to a repair project. So the cost has gone up so much, and even the insignificant type work, I wouldn't recommend cutting it because you never know what we're gonna need it for. But that's up. Yes.
The other thing we're kind of holding our breath on is our mechanic is another person long in the tooth. And if we lose him, it may take a while to find someone else. It's hard to find mechanics. So if we get some extra money here, we may have to hire out things we wouldn't have for a time or that we wouldn't have hired out otherwise. So.
Then it's a Winter Street. Now that the market bad opened up a lot, brother, is that road or our road keeping up on Winter Street? Or do we have to look at that the time?
I think it's doing okay at this point. Mike, you're talking about the wear and tear on the street itself,
Yeah.
or, yes, I
No,
think
the traffic's increased dramatically out there.
no, I didn't know if it was that, or if you were asking about the speed humps that were.
No, speed up the fine, that's full painting for you. No, just the wear and tear of the road is still holding up well.
Yes. Yeah, seems to be doing fine.
Good.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ed Carrot from Solid Waste.
Hey,
Page 28.
28.
All right. I know it's simpler, I'm just gonna sit and talk trash to you.
Oh, here was there.
As I always.
What bag is two?
One bag of two, I've got the debit now, I can pick you right up. Those who don't know me, I think I know everybody, but Ed Karen, Solid Waste Director. Personnel for the Solid Waste facility, we have myself, 2 full-time transfer station operators and 2 part-time attendants that fill in when everyone else is out, on weekends in particular. Equipment, we still have the old loader, the forklift is holding up pretty well. The pickup truck is on its way out with a plow, but the sander is no longer usable, so we're doing it the old way, throwing it out back up the truck. And when we need it immediately, Dennis comes over and takes care of us otherwise. We've one downstroke baler that's been with us since 1983, I think, and is probably the best working baler I got. The 2 trash compactors are showing the end of their life. Sooner or later, we're gonna have to look at that. They've got rust issues. They're from 1992, so we've been pretty fortunate to have them hold up pretty well as they are now, but we are seeing, what I like to describe as green bridge effect going on with some of the iron. So we're gonna have to look at that. I'm gonna leave that to my replacement if that happens. They can look at that, but we're looking probably at the future of upgrading the transfer station, maybe adding scales. Reworking the metal and demo boxes so that they're easier accessible to the public, while working a routine with the scales if we should go that route. That'll be in the future for that. Highlights, we're dependent on tokens bags as well as credit and debit now. But with the new debit card reader, it's working out pretty well. Get your face out of there. And with what we bring in for returnable bottles and scrap metals for revenues are pretty good right now. This year you might see that we've added a line in our revenue receiving for Eco Maine. When we changed over to the new contract with Eco Maine, one of the deals that really kind of made us go with them was that there would be a profit sharing, if you will. And we got our first check from them just recently for $400 or $500, which is money we wouldn't expect to get otherwise. But I think going with the Eco Maine, that's working out very well. They're working with us to do a lot of programs. They worked with us at the transfer station, and recently I've been in communication with them. They're going to be doing a lot of local things with both the Highlands, the schools, and everything else to kind of promote our recycling and how we go. So we'll be looking to work with them on that. Metal, like I say, precious metal and the returnables. The returnables, we bring in about $600 a month in returnable bottles. So keep drinking, people. Copper and brass, we'll separate out. Lead acid batteries, we'll separate those out and we market those off. So that's another revenue source. We continue to separate the cardboard, and because the markets are showing some indication of improvement. But also, for us, every load of cardboard we get is another offset for the recycling costs that we pay. So a little bit more money in than money out. The Redemption Center, like I said, we've been working with Speedy Redemption. They'll pick up our bottles and cans, and we'll take them, count them, and then at the end of the month, Maine Recycling will send us a check. And we've been getting our regular checks from them since October. We're all caught up, and everything's looking good there. That's working out real well for us. We don't have a overload of bottles and cans sitting around any longer. Paint and light bulb recycling still a good cost savings. I still can't believe how much paint we take in every year. It's amazing. But that program, along with the light bulbs, is a really good program for the town. We're saving money. We're not paying out anything. And this is the second year since we created the pollinator garden on the landfill caps. This is a project taken on by the interns from Bowdoin College. Since we no longer hay the caps due to PFAS, we found the pollinator garden would work out good for remediation. We've seeded the trails with native wildflowers, seeds from a grant. As they say, the first year they sleep, second year they creep, third year they leap. So I'm hoping this second year we'll start seeing a little creeping going on. We have some sign of the flowers. So like I say, it's a 3-year process to really get anything going. Last year I saw flowers at a small level, but not at a point where they'll create a flower yet. So hopefully this year they'll start showing a little bit more. We'll see what spring brings us in that. Leasing licenses increase because we're still doing some work around the landfill with bulldozers, so we're renting that. I haven't done it yet, so I haven't spent that money, but I'll be doing that this spring. Landfill closure is still up there because we have to keep a little bit of a reserve in there for in the event one of those water systems that we have to take care of on the Townsend Way goes bad. For those who don't know, one of them we paid over $20,000 to have a filtration system in there, and we have to maintain that. So that money's in there in case that goes bad. This year we had a little bit of problems with the one expensive system, but that one was taken care of fairly quick, and landowners were happy enough. We replaced the 4 trailers that we bought last year. 2 or 3 of them are in place. So we're going to put another one in place when spring comes around, we can work the ground a little bit. The trailers that we replaced were 30 years old. We did didn't have to pay anybody to come get them. Grimmels came and got them for us for nothing and hauled them off, and I was gonna give them the boxes just for hauling them off, and they paid us for it as well, so. They're pretty good to us about trucking costs.
Maybe talk about what else they do for us, just like the
Well,
tops of
one of the things that Grimmels, when we did the contract, the new contract for our waste, I approached them about taking our demo and putting in a bid for the trucking as well. And they put in a bid of $98 a ton for the demo debris and no trucking. And all the other companies that would have hauled off our material work would have been $230, $240 a pull. So that's quite a savings for us with them. And they pay us for our scrap metal, and again, don't charge us for trucking that either. So we've got a great working relationship with them that we hope to continue on in the future. They do a lot for us. It does show.
It's taken a while
What's that?
to work with Rimmel.
Not me. We've
Not
I've
you.
always had a
You've had-
good rapport.
It's just when they used to not wanna pay taxes.
Yes, but
They were terrible.
that's not my range.
I know it, but I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, well,
It affects you.
there's new people running places now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've done really good for us, and they're a good program. Pretty much all I have for right now.
I have a question. We take in ash. Do we not do that anymore?
We don't anymore because we were informed that if we were taking ash, we have to have it tested. And it has to be treated a whole differently. The problem we have is you might burn clean wood in your wood stove, but Mike might burn all his styrofoam, plastic. So we don't know what's in that ash, so we can no longer accept it as something.
I didn't know that was the reason. It's good to know.
Anything else?
Yeah, 64% on the leases and license. Huh.
That's the credit card fee.
Was why?
It's the credit card fee. Because they just, how long has it been if you have the credit card?
Over a year now.
Probably 3 years.
Maybe even.
Yeah, so, yeah,
And
it's,
we
It's getting
pay,
used a
we
lot
pay
more.
for that use. Originally, when we first started, it was a month, but
Right.
we had to put in. So
And
our
then,
system doesn't allow us to charge.
and then heating fuel, 2,000 more. What does the solid waste heat with?
Well, the garage, the maintenance garage is heated with propane, and we just changed over to Dead River. Well, we just put the heater in last year, so that number was kind of up from the old one as well.
Okay.
And also we use K1 for our
Oh,
master blasters that keep us warm in the building, the recycle building. And this year we've gone through quite a bit, because temperatures.
cold.
thank you.
It,
Yes.
I apologize if I missed this. So the contract line, again, this just goes back
Contractor.
the contracts. And this goes, by saying what one was asking for public works, so. We budgeted 180,000, we've only spent 174,000.
Mhm.
Again, previous years, we haven't even come close, are you anticipating?
Right now, I can say that we're getting a lot more residents coming in. Whereas the commercial haulers in the area have raised their costs up quite a bit. We've got a lot more people coming to us that never have been. But also, that line covers more than just trash. It covers any demo. We have no control of how much demo comes in. But it covers the demo, covers the tires, it covers propane tanks, a number of different items within the budget.
So you think it's even going to increase because you're proposing another $10,000 for this year?
That's our based on the amount of trash that we're bringing in and demo and looking at it on a monthly rate, we could bump that up because it looks like it's coming up on us, what's coming in.
We also bumped up the revenue too, though, for the transfer station.
Right.
So
To hopefully make up for that as well.
Do we really make $220,000 in revenue on bags and coupons?
Yeah,
Yeah, we do pretty well. Well, but anything, like even the debit card is considered back in coupons too, but yes, we still,
Oh, so when that, I got you.
so it's all total,
All the
same
same.
as that goes. It is? So, Thank you very much.
That in June or?
No, can tell. No later than next year.
Make sure to tell a new guy to leave your little boys up.
Is that like one of those signs that say
They're
free beer tomorrow?
Okay,
Always
we'll work
tomorrow.
together.
Then I'm tired next year.
I go toys there and chicken.
Lease is.
Page, yes, page 25. Chief Hagan always likes to follow Ed, so
Yeah.
we'll let him do it.
A lot of little quips and stuff that I don't, so that's all right. All right, Mark Hagan, Chief of Police, we'll start with our staffing. We are authorized for 17 sworn. And right now, we are at 14. We were so close a couple months ago. We had 2 new hires. And we're interviewing another subject that's still in school. And basically, some things happened with the 2 of our new employees. We've hired 3 over the last few months. 2 of them have now left. And we still have this subject that's in school. He'll be graduating in late May, early June, so we're hoping to bring him on. So right now, we're at 2 openings. And we also have a part-time crossing guard position that's been open all year. So that is extremely hard to fill, just because of the hours that that person would have to work, which is early in the morning. Basically from 7 to 9 in the morning, and then they'd have to come back from 2:15 to 3:45. So it's very difficult to fill unless we had somebody that was retired, Mike Labby, that wanted to do it. But other than that, that spot has been open all year, so we've been trying to fill it with whoever's
Well,
working.
Luke wants it.
Perfect.
As long as I have those flashy jackets and stuff. I thought last year we talked about having electronic things and no people there.
Yeah,
What happened to that?
well, signs are fairly expensive to get. We had somebody right up until pretty much the budget got passed.
Yeah.
And they left, and so now we're back to this unless we decide to.
So, yeah, are we re-looking at that though? Cause you know, it's, I don't think it's just that, it's the hours, but like this year. It's very tough on people to go up there and stand. Cindy was one in the Maine, but a lot of people on Cindy.
Yeah, and we had somebody that took it after her, but then she had some things that changed in her life and she couldn't do it anymore. And, you know, we talked about getting signage. And then about that time also is when Bath had a couple of students hit. And, you know, then we were talking about, is signage gonna cover what we're looking at versus having a person out there? So right now, no, but you know, we have probably enough left over if we decide, because we just haven't been using it. If we decide that's the way we want to go, what we're trying to avoid is getting the signage and then having the person out there.
So does somebody cover that? Is that covered at all now?
We're trying to get our officers during the day if they don't have calls to go out there. Now, to be honest with you, the one that's down by Napa on Main Street.
Right.
Maybe every few days you'll get 1 or 2 kids cross it. So there's really, at some point, we're gonna have to do the math here and decide whether we even want a position there. They're middle school to high school kids. And Cindy always told us maybe on a nice day we'd get a couple, but then she'd be there for days without any. And then if you go down to Elm Street with the elementary school, there aren't many people letting their, you know, elementary school children walk by themselves. So again, very hit or miss on whether we even have anybody there, and especially in the winter, you know, it's tough. And, you know, most kids aren't walking, so yeah, it's at some point, we're gonna have to have a serious conversation about whether we even want to staff positions.
Sounds like a job for the sheriff's department.
Mark, have you considered making that 2 positions, one just for the morning and one for the afternoon? Would that be a little more appealing to people if they only?
So we have 12 and a half hours that we budget for that
Yeah.
right now, a week. So I'm just not sure if then asking somebody to do 6, somebody do 6.5 and somebody do 6. I'm not sure if that would help or not. We could look at that. The problem we've had so far is just nobody wants either the mornings or the afternoon, so that's kind of where we're stuck right now. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide, and I think you all probably know this, but 92% of our budget is committed to just personnel, wages, benefits, and other contractual items. That leaves us with, roughly 8% that we can actually move around that isn't already committed to different things. So we use that for training, service agreements, professional equipment, office supplies, and so forth. Decided to just rip the bandage off and show everybody where our bigger increases are this year. So that's why this slide's a little different. Dues and membership, you'll see an $8,900 increase. And to be honest, that is, we're consolidating. So our accreditation funds, what they call MLEAP, or Maine Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. We had that up until this year in 3 different accounts. And it just seems easier to put everything in one account. So by moving it over, that bumped it up a little bit. And also the company that takes care of our accreditation that we work with, they put their fees up because more agencies in the state of Maine are going to accreditation for the obvious. It makes sense, and it shows that you're following accepted practices. So by doing that, it's causing them more work, and they're increasing the fees, and it's coming down to us. So leases and licenses, that line increased by $8,278. And this comes from our body worn and cruiser contract. 5 years has gone by pretty quick, and it's time this fall to renew that. And the fees going up just like everything else. We had been paying $19,000, and it's bumping up to $30,528 this year. With the new contract, we're getting upgraded hardware, upgraded software. You look at, they talk about computers, right? And every 5 years, your computers are getting upgraded. This is all computer-based hardware now that we have. So it's time to update it. And of course, by this point, these companies have learned that we need this. When it comes down to it, we need to have cameras at this point so they can also afford to move it up. We've talked about looking at other companies. The issue is we've already got all the infrastructure with this one company, and the other companies are doing the same thing. So we've chosen right now to stay with the same company we've been with. They've treated us well and had minimal issues with their. So
Chief, maybe talk about some of the benefits you found with the claims, but personnel complaints,
Yeah.
lawsuits we saved.
yeah, let me jump ahead a slide here. Couple slides. So our in-car body worn camera systems. So it's going to start being $31,528 annually. But again, the system allows for documentation of every interaction that we have with folks, and it greatly assists us, as I've said before, with complaint investigation. So the savings outweigh the costs when you start looking at lawsuits. Very litigious society these days. Obviously, you all know we've had 2 shootings in the last few years, the last one being last January. In both shootings, we've had cruiser cameras and body worn cameras that have shown what occurred at the shootings. And to be honest, there's really been little doubt as to what happened and why after people see the camera footage. So in addition to that, we've had erroneous complaints of racism against our officers since I've been here, use of force issues or use of force complaints, and Fourth Amendment complaints as well. And in every situation, we have looked at the body worn or the cruiser cameras, and people have been cleared. So it is saving us in potential lawsuits for this. It more than pays for itself. we've also had the two biggest things would be we've had two life-saving events on the Merrimack Bridge where our officers have pulled somebody back that was attempting to jump. We also use it for field training. Simple fact is, myself as the chief, we only have two sergeants and one lieutenant. We can't be with our officers all the time. We are constantly watching a video just to make sure, looking for training issues, especially with our younger officers. And, we're able to correct things before it becomes an issue by having these cameras in the car. And it also tells us where our officers are. It's got a tracking piece in there. Talks about, we can see speeds if we get a complaint on somebody's speeding, where we can look back at that. So the cameras are paying for themselves. See if I can get back to that. Okay, so leases and licenses, we've had an $8,200 increase there from body one camera renewal. Vehicle maintenance is up $6,500 this year to $30,000. And basically, when we were doing the budget a couple months ago, we were at 45% of the year. We'd already used 75% of the budget. So we were on pace at the time to spend $35,000. That has dropped a little bit. But the cost of ordering parts, the cost of labor, getting the cruisers worked on. We had a couple accidents this year, one with a deer that caused significant damage to one of our cars. And then we had another accident that was one of our officers' faults, which is going to happen when we're on the road 24/7 all the time. So our maintenance is going up a little bit, $6,500. Fuel, we had a $12,000, a little over $12,000 increase. We've been 3 officers down, so we've been saving some money on fuel. And as I said a couple months ago, when we were doing the budget, we thought we were going to have 3 of those positions filled. And now in the last few weeks, we've lost 2 of those positions. But we filled one of them, we got 2 spots going. And the simple fact is, if we have more officers, we're going to have to, we're going to be driving more, we're going to use more fuel. Yes, sir.
I was just curious, I don't know if this is directly with it, but why are uniforms so much more expensive than professional equipment?
I think a little bit of it is because
I'm just curious.
well, so there's a few things. One is that by contract, every officer gets $900 to use for uniform cleaning or uniform cleaning, whatever. So you get 900 times, all the officers in the union. So that adds up real quick there. And when we hire a new officer, we're spending almost $5,000 to outfit new officers. By the time we get their vest, we get all the leather gear, we get, just the regular uniform.
And that's the uniform, not the equipment. I'm just curious, the difference is more expensive for a uniform than brand new budget.
Well, when we talk equipment, I'm talking, all the gear that the officers wear as well. So when we're talking about the equipment line, that's more, if we have damage to a rifle, if we have damage to something in the station, something in the car. When we talk about equipment, that's more what we're talking about. File cabinets, we keep telling people we're going paperless. And we're not really going paperless, they keep telling us that's where we're headed. And then, we still keep files on everything just in case.
We said that for 20 years.
Yeah, and we'll say it for another 20 probably. And it's just, we're not quite getting there when it comes to that. So.
Mark, when you budget for the fuel and stuff, are you doing that as if you were at full employment and you have everybody, right? You're not doing that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get caught short on the other side. There's wiggle room as we get closer to July here, if we think we're gonna get anybody on board or not. The 2 newer people we hired should be in the police academy right now. So our theory was, when we were looking at this, or my theory was, they were gonna graduate at the end of May, early June. So as we hit the new fiscal year, they were gonna be out on the road. And so we were gonna be right there, full staff. And didn't work out for me. but, we're still hoping.
So I'm just curious, Mark, with regards to these two people, was this something that happened after you made the decision to hire them, that made them unfit to be serve law enforcement?
So one of the folks, without getting too far into it, we did 4 months of field training. And, you know,
So we invested in these people already.
yes, a lot of things looked great and during an interview and the first few weeks, but you know, we expect people to progress at a certain level. And we found that it wasn't happening.
They weren't progressive.
Correct. And then with the other person, there was an undisclosed injury. And when we found out about it, it came to a point where we still like that person. We might be able to bring them back at a later time. But it was an undisclosed previous injury before we hired them. And when it comes down to it, I didn't see the need for the town they couldn't go to the academy because of this injury. And I didn't want the town to take on the risk and payment.
Right, because not to drag this on, but years ago, we had a problem of us spending money sent to the academy, and then they would go use that training, get hired by somebody else. And weren't we making them, isn't there some type of commitment, once they come to the academy, you have to serve the town, basically?
We don't make anybody sign a contract, but what happens now is the state it basically enforces a fine on whatever town takes the person. So if we have somebody graduate the academy, the next 5 years, if that person leaves and goes to another agency, that agency they'd have to pay us depending on how long that person's been there. So
it's like
it's a pretty hefty fee. Yeah.
We get some prorated return out of it.
Exactly. So we get the investment back. In fact, one of the people that we just released has already been picked up by another agency. And we have got not the hours that person was working, but all of the equipment and everything only fits that person. So unless we're gonna start looking for applicants and holding up uniform shirts and stuff, which was done a long time ago, but we're not doing that anymore. So we suggested if they wanted all the equipment at the cost, and that's what they have done. So now we got quite a bit back just from doing that.
Yeah, that's fine, because there was a time where we were just eating that money. Or back in years ago.
Yeah, no, we're pretty cautious with that now, and the state helps us with the whole academy training and so forth. So speaking of training, we continue, you've seen this one before. We use the risk management approach to training. We attempt to determine what can go wrong. And then we look at the personnel and try to provide them with training in exactly what could cause us civil, criminal litigation and the town. So, de-escalation is big, verbal judo, mental health awareness is huge, less lethal, active shooter, all of those things. We're still continuing to, every year, we look and see what our new threats are, and we're trying to train people along those lines. I'll bring up again the fact that we had another shooting in 2025. Every time we have an officer involved shooting, we have to put together a critical incident review team. They look at everything and decide what we should be doing better, if anything. This year we did that again, and they came back and praised our approach and the level of training our officers are receiving. So they haven't come back either year with anything that we should be doing differently. And I think that goes back to our training approach. So that's what we're going to stick with right now. Just to give you just a brief on, we do a lot of training online. We have a weekly training that all the officers take that just updates them on pertinent case law. Deergo Safety, we use them. It's again online training. We have a lot of state mandated, as you can imagine, in law enforcement. A lot of state mandated training we have to take. In addition, you have the usual work-related bloodborne pathogens, fire extinguishers, sexual harassment, those types of training. The rest of the money that we have, in our training budget, we invest in the individual officers. We ask them, we try to find out what they're interested in, we try to have some specialties. We're better off keeping our officers interested in whatever they're we have one officer that has recently been to drug recognition training. That's what that officer is interested in. It helps us and it helps them. We can keep our officers, interested in what they're doing. It is obviously a retention tool. So that's pretty much where we have some officers this year that are more interested in the physical agility, defensive tactics. So we sent them to those trainings as well. Our focus probably in the last 2 years has really been on leadership. And the reason for that is what I keep telling our officers, whether it's a supervisor or whether it's a patrol officer, when they show up on scene, they are the leader. It's not a sergeant, it's a patrol officer. If we go to a crash, if we go to some type of fight, shoplifting, whatever, when our officers pull up, whether they're a patrolman or a supervisor, people are looking at them for leadership at that scene. And we expect all of our officers to take the lead. And that just doesn't come naturally for everybody. So we've been sending a lot of officers to training. Again, because we have the training room next door, we can host training. This year we hosted a social and emotional intelligence training that also focused on leadership. You know, it was really pushing, being able to read the room, being able to read your officers, being able to read your co-workers. So the last couple of years, it's really been focused leadership is what we've been, our focus has been on leadership. Let's see here, body cameras, we already talked about body worn and in-car camera systems. I wanted to talk just for a minute about community outreach because for 5 years I've been getting up here telling you about what we need money for. And I never really take too much time to talk to you about what I feel we're doing to give back. So National Night Out's a big event for us every August. It's always the first Tuesday in August. Big event on Forsyth Road. The Law Enforcement Against Drugs program, we've added to it this year. Last year was the first year we did that with 7th grade at the middle school. This year we added 5 weeks because when we were talking to the school, they didn't have a lot to do with violence. And so we offered to take that on as well. The program that we teach also has a 5-week violence program. So for anti-bullying, anti-violence. So we added that this year. We've already done half of the 7th grade. We just started last week with the second half. That's Officer Matthew, myself, and Officer Sampson. So, that program talks about decision-making, being responsible for our actions, setting goals, effective communication. There's a lot of life skills in there. We talk about conflict resolution, a lot of things that, to be honest, we don't see in a lot of our adults these days. So we're trying to get them early. And, if kids aren't being taught this stuff, how are they gonna know it? So we're trying to help out in there. And it gives us a good opportunity to build relationships with the kids.
So why did you decide on 7th grade as the ideal grade to do this type of programming?
Well, for a couple of reasons. One was when we were talking, I originally met with the school to see what would be a good grade. And we were hoping to build it out into other grades, but they said if there was only one that you could hit, 7th grade is really when kids are starting to transition in a lot of different ways. And so they thought that would be good. Also at the same time, they have a health class that goes all year in 7th grade. And so the health teachers, we met with the health teachers, told them what we wanted to do. They were like, come on in. And so that's how it started last year. And then they liked the 10-week program so much, we've added the violence, conflict, and so forth. And it's really gone well for us. We do, just to make sure we're hitting what we should be, we give them a pre-test to be able to give them a post-test. Plus, I go back to the school and tell them how the program's going. They need to have some checks and balances. So the first class we did this year, the pre-test was at 80. The class average was 80, and the post-test was 91. So teachers seem happy with that number. I thought it sounded like a pretty good, increase in knowledge, same exact test. So yeah, so that's where we are right now with that program. The next one, I should just put bold, or I should have brought him in, you know, we start talking about our comfort dog, Garver. And that has just been about the biggest hit we've ever had. In fact, if you're bored Saturday morning, he's going to be at the American Legion, or on Saturday, they're doing their annual winter softball tournament that they do to raise money for homeless veterans. And they reached out to us a few weeks ago and asked us if he would come and help throw out the first ball. And we had to explain that his arm isn't so good. He's not gonna be throwing much. So we've decided that they will pitch the first ball to him, and he's gonna return the ball to the pitcher. In theory. I gotta be honest with you, I've played catch with Garver.
I've seen that
I
dog.
feel that this is gonna go poorly, and got all kinds of softball players chasing our dog all around, trying to get the ball with, but we'll see how that goes. The program's been awesome, and the Legion really helped us out, raise the money. Saginaw County stepped up with some drug money that they had, and they're also paying for the program. So right now, we're probably good for a few years with that.
I think that is one of the best things that the state, and fire have come up with. I just think it's just wonderful, that program.
If you could see the kids when he's in the school, I mean, it really is, it's amazing. And he comes into the station and meets when we have a victim of various traumas, and that really helps him out. So it's quite a program. Blue Envelope program we rolled out a couple of years ago that helps citizens with autism and other communication disorders. Basically just tells them what they should have. They can put it in the envelope, so if it's a traffic stop, they can have the information right there for us. If you don't watch our Facebook, you probably missed that we just started 2 programs last week. The At-Risk Citizen Program and the Vacation Watch Program. So we just put those on the police department website. The At-Risk Citizen Program allows for people with cognitive or social impairments. They can go on there, or their loved one can go on there and put all the information. There's an app on the police department website that you go in and you put all your information in there. It's kept confidential. You can put a photo, you can tell us what the person, where they're more likely to go if they wander away from the house. Is there a certain restaurant? Is there a certain?
Jeff signed me up for it today.
So we keep photos of the person. So we rolled that out last week. We've already got some people that have signed up for it. Vacation Watch program's a nice one. Just if you're going on vacation, you just again click on the app, put all your information on there for when you're leaving, when you'll be back. And kind of the cool thing with this one is if we go to your house and do a quick check of it, when we are clearing your house, we put a quick note in there, and you'll get an email no matter where you are saying, hey, officer just checked the house, everything looks great. So it's kind of a neat little extra. And then we try to get involved in pretty much anything we can. Hannaford reached out to me a few years ago, and we've been doing this stuff, the cruiser event, ever since. With helps the Western House. We've also helped the food shortages that they've had with kids at school. So just a few of the events that we've been involved in.
I'd just like to say one thing. I want to commend you and your staff. My wife has dementia, and she's now in memory care. But I remember when 2 of the officers, she was calling and reporting all about stuff, and when 2 of the officers came out. I've lived in a lot of big cities. I have never seen such compassion and care that your 2 officers, one was a sergeant and one was a young woman. And I just want to compliment you again, because I have never seen anywhere kind of compassion and understanding that they showed. And I think the city and town people ought to know about that. And I think it's a wonderful program.
No, I greatly appreciate hearing that. I usually only get the complaints, and at the end of the day, I get it. We are the referees of life, and I know how everybody feels about referees, right? So we get a lot of complaints, but we don't often get, very many compliments. But we have some of the nicest officers I've ever dealt with, in my 3 agencies that I've been in. So I do appreciate that. jumping on to capital expenditures here. So as you know, since I've been here, we've been doing the 2-1 with cruisers. 1 year we'll get 2 cruisers, the next year we'll get the 1 cruiser. And we've been switching off. This year, we are set to get 2 cruisers, which is where you see the 130,000 come from. Generally, we budget 50,000 for the actual cruiser and then 15,000 for the new equipment, light bars. Sometimes we have to update the computers that are in there and so forth. We got rifles. There's a lot of equipment in the cars if you haven't seen it. And then of course, not just Ford, but all the dealers change the design of their car just enough every few years so that we have to buy different types of equipment to put in it. So that's the number we've been using. This past year in 2025, we purchased a hybrid. It's our second hybrid. We were lucky. Our first hybrid that we purchased, we never had any issues with. But all the agencies around us have had nothing but issues with the hybrids. But what we believe is that has been taken care of over the last few years. So we went out this year and we're trying another hybrid. The hybrid that we have gets roughly 8 miles per gallon better mileage than the other cars. So we're trying it again with, we tried it again in 2025. That one isn't on the road yet. We're waiting to get that built. It's taken a long time to get equipment in. It's a lot of tariffs on a lot of the equipment we need in the cars, and it's just taking a while to get that in. So to start with, that's where we are with the 2 cruises. We're set to get two this year. Now I'm gonna flip ahead to the next slide to start talking about a take-home cruiser proposal that we have. For
These next 2 items are some of the things that I identified that aren't in the budget, but for you to listen to and see if you want input.
I have another quick question for the one.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you just lease cars 2 years instead of buying?
We actually looked at that, and I was at a conference a couple of years ago. There was a company there that was doing that. And the salesman, God bless him, he said, "Are you having any trouble keeping up with the management system that you're using right now?" And I said, "No." He said, "Then I'd stay with it, because we've generally been doing this leasing for people that can't keep up with all of the equipment and so forth in their cars." And we do a pretty good, it's been a pretty good setup that we've been using. It's working for us. And it sounded like a money loser for us to get rid of all of our equipment, where right now we own it. And it didn't sound like a good deal for us. I reached out to my officers last year looking for some input on how we could get more personnel, more applicants here. And one of the things they overwhelmingly stated was take-home cruisers for everybody. So for clarity, I didn't like the idea. It didn't seem like a great idea to me. But I said, since they were doing some work on it, that I would look into it. So the first thing I did was I called 2 PDs that I knew had switched to this idea several years ago. I talked to the chief from Winthrop PD, and he said it was great. He said it has increased recruitment, it's increased retention. Talked about the savings in their maintenance and their cruiser rebuild costs and decreased mileage on their cars. I asked him how long of a rotation they're using on their cruisers, and he said 8 years. And we're using 5 years, and we're barely getting to 5 years. So then I called Farmington, spoke to him again. First thing he said was recruiting and retention has been great. Saved in maintenance costs, cruiser rebuild costs. And cruiser rebuild costs is the cost of us every 5 years having to take everything out of one car, putting what we can into the next car. It costs roughly $15,000 depending on what we have to replace. So it's a significant cost. Increased ownership and accountability. So multiple people drive our cruisers, multiple officers. And we often have issues where we find something on a car and it's like, hey, does anybody know how this happened? And the not me ghost comes out, right? Not me. I don't know when that happened. And we can't figure out when it happened. So everybody has that issue. Farmington, Winthrop, they all have the same issues. And Farmington chief told me that went to nothing because the officers now have their own cars. They are accountable for it. Plus, it's their car. They're not sharing it with anybody. They are, they have increased accountability, basically. They take care of it. There's nobody else to blame. And they like having their own car and they take better care of it. Now, the Farmington chief told me fuel and tire rotation was basically a wash. He's not saving money there, but he is saving in the maintenance. And he's using a 7-year rotation. Again, still 2 years better than what we have. I talked to Sheriff Mary about it. As you probably know, all the sheriff's offices do this. And his first answer was, after you get by the initial cost of the program of rolling it out, it's a no-brainer. It saves money. And they're using a 7-year rotation. So next thing we looked at is we took 2 of our cruisers. Car 6 is a multiple user car. That's our supervisor's car. And so what I mean by multiple users is the sergeants swap off. Sergeants swap off days. So that car is being used every day by one of our officers. Car 7 on the right is a single user car. That was the car that was initially for our animal control officer. And then last year we turned it over to Officer Matthew as a school resource officer car. So car 6 is a 2020 and it's got 146,000 miles, 556 on it because it's driven every day. Car 7, the car that's been just a single user car, 2017, and it's only got 92,000 plus miles on it. So right away I started to say, okay, this is interesting. Then we pulled the maintenance costs. Car 6, multiple user car. We only have records from July of 21 to present because even though it's a 2020, by the time we received it and got it built up, it didn't go on the road until July of 21. So the maintenance costs for car 6 have been over $15,000, roughly $15,000 since July of 21. Maintenance costs for the single user car since 2019, we can't find any records. I apologize, beyond 2019, or before 2019, I should tell you. Maintenance costs for that car since 2019 have been $13,164. So you've got an annual savings in just maintenance costs there alone. So we figure if we keep a car for 7 years, obviously you can't say that every car will be exactly $1,471 in savings, but roughly that's $10,000 being saved just in maintenance costs. So again, I started thinking, this might actually be a positive program for us. So now if you look at this diagram, on top is if we purchase cars the way we're doing it right now. So we get 2 1 year, 1 the next, and we just keep going back and forth with the 2-1 program. And basically after the first 5 years, it is more expensive. So again, the top diagram shows if we every 5 years and what we're looking at purchasing. So we would be purchasing 8 cars over the next 5 years. It's 520,000. If we do the proposed plan, we're roughly looking at 10 cars over the next 5 years. So it's more expensive. But now if you look at the bottom line, if you look at working this program out for 15 years, in 15 years, we will have bought, if we stay with our current program, 24 cruisers, each with a 5-year lifespan. So we're spending $1,560,000. In 14 years, if every car is getting 7 years, and we don't know, maybe we could get 8, a lifespan of 8, we're not sure, but everybody else seems to be working with 7, we would purchase 20 cruisers versus 24 cruisers. So there is a savings there once you get there. It's $260,000, by the way. So our proposal isn't necessarily to roll this out immediately. We're talking about a slow roll when I talk about this program. We're looking at just this year, we're already purchasing 2 cars. So we're talking about purchasing the 2 cars. We may keep both, instead of trading them in, we'll have to see how they're doing by the time we get the cars. Because again, we're talking about July comes, if we roll this out, July's here. And we, go through the process of seeing who'll give us the best deal with the cruisers. By the time we order them, I mean, here we are, car 6, which was the 2025 car. We're probably 2 or 3 weeks away from getting that built. So we have some time here, but other costs anyway. So $90,000 for 2 additional cruisers over the current plan. The extra lights and so forth. Again, cruiser build is roughly about $15,000 per. We checked into insurance. It's an extra $1,022 per additional cruiser for insurance. So over 5 years, you have the $5,110. Proposed financial savings of the program over 14 years. Again, if we have 1,471 in roughly maintenance from the car not being driven every day, that works out to $10,000 per car over 7 years. 4 fewer cruiser rebuilds, you get plus or minus $60,000 with prices probably going up. I don't think anything's coming down in the future. We purchased 4 fewer cruisers over the next 14 years. There's another $260,000. And the bottom piece that I talk about is retention matters because experience matters. And judgment and discretion are learned over time. You hire somebody just out of college or that didn't go to college, it takes a while to learn judgment. It takes a while to learn discretion in our field. Anybody can go out there and write tickets and say you're doing, 32 and a 30 or 32 and 30 and a 25 or whatever. But to learn how to read people and see, our big thing that we've told people since I started here anyway, is our job as law enforcement is to get people to stop doing whatever it is that they're doing wrong. And if you think a warning will do it, that's fine. We don't have any types of ticket numbers, summons numbers that you have to do. It's about getting people to stop what it is they're doing. And there's a certain type of officer we're looking for. We're not looking for the people that are just writing tickets. Tickets are easy. Oh, you're 2 months overdue and you usually get 30 days for an inspection. That's easy. You don't have to think about it. It takes time to talk to people and find out why their inspection's overdue. It's November and Christmas is coming and Thanksgiving's there and you're stopping somewhere with a carload of kids and where that ticket money is coming if you write them a summons. So those are the kind of things we're putting into our officers and into their minds anyway. So I come back to retention matters because experience matters, and it takes time. They say it's an average of 3 to 5 years to learn how to be a law enforcement officer. 3 to 5 years before you pretty much dealt with every type of scene and you're like, okay, I've dealt with this before. I know how to work it. If we're losing people at 3 to 5 years, we're losing all of that experience. So I tell you, I know it comes at a cost, but it also has a cost savings over the big picture. And we're not looking, Saginaw and Lisbon are the types of PDs that we're in competition with. We're not in competition with Brunswick necessarily because the officers that go to Brunswick are generally looking to get on a SWAT team or they like the motorcycle or other things that Brunswick officers, that Brunswick offers. We're looking at Saginaw sheriffs, and we have lost several people, not already officers. We lost 1 officer since I've been here to SAG who wanted to take home car, but we've lost people that didn't even apply and they said it was because they wanted to take home car. Young kids wanted to take home car. I don't know. There's more to do it than there's more to it than that. But with that being said, that's what's drawing people in. Lisbon doesn't offer this, SAG does, and we're trying to think outside the box. This is definitely outside the box because my old school mentality didn't think this would be a great idea. After looking at everything, I think it's worth a shot. And we're not asking you to roll it out all at once and cost a lot of money. We're asking to try it slowly. So if it, over the next couple of years, something that nobody has told us about isn't working, we can back off of it very easily. but I think it's worth a shot.
Is it? I have a couple
Yes, sir.
questions about it. Sounds like a reasonable plan. It sounds like a tremendous fringe benefit that you can use to recruit. I get that. But what about, like, can you use this for your family car, like to take your kids shopping? So how does it work? You just can use it to and from work? You have to have a second car to personal use. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Oh,
no, it's a matter of what your agency wants, like, let me talk about state police, they allow their officers to use their state trooper car. Go to the gym, go shopping, whatever, they like the fact that their cruiser's seen, and there's an argument to, the more people see them, the more people think, oh, there's cops everywhere. So I get it for state police, we're a small municipality. What, I've already come up with a standard operating procedure on it. I've looked at other people's from counties too. I know what state police is. I looked at Farmington's and Winthrop's. And I've come up with a policy, but in that policy, it would not be using it for personal. It would just be to go back and forth to work. And you still have to come into the station. You're not getting paid. It's all outlined in there, but you're not getting paid till you're at the station, of course, unless you come across a crash or something like that. But it's a fairly strict policy so far that I've come up with.
Hey, who covers, like, do you have to have personal accidents insurance and stuff like that, or does the police department cover all that?
It would be covered by insurance, yeah.
I just wanna reiterate on what you said on experience. I was stopped last year by one of the officers for my inspection sticker. And I explained to them that I had just inherited the car. I had registered it, but I never looked at the inspection sticker. And he was really sweet and kind, because he knew me for years, but he just was, he handled it really well. He could have said, Ruth, go. He said, just get it done within 24 hours. So, but that was an instance where I really did look at it because I just received the car.
A lot of people don't. And thank you for that, because I thought you were gonna say you wrote your ticket. It was gonna ruin what I just told you.
You missed the ticket.
So I've got another proposal, but does anybody have any questions about this? Yes, sir.
For a point of clarification, I'm looking at this from maybe a different angle, but it's not because I'm for or against it, I'm just more curious about it. How many vehicles do we have now?
We have 12.
We have 12, and how many would we look to max out at?
So if we were at 17, then everybody would have a car.
Okay,
I would, to be honest, I propose 18 because cars go in the shop and we can't always get things taken care of on the days off of somebody. Now, if that didn't work, then what happens is somebody has to give up their car on their days off. What it is.
got it.
So there's ways around not having what they call a pool car, which is basically an extra, just in case somebody's car's in the shop. You can work around that.
The questions kind of progressed because it was dependent on. So we needed 6 more cars to go in. In the ideal situation at roughly 65,000 each, right? For the purchase of a car and to equip it.
Yeah, at some point, I can't tell you off the top of my head where we would have enough equipment, so we would have all the cars equipped, but yeah, it could be that.
So that's 390,000. I'm only doing that math because my thought process is that no matter how many cars we have in the fleet, the officers that are working regular duty are going to do the same amount of mileage, just spread out over more cars. Would that be accurate? So if 2 people, if we had a shared car in here and it was driven every day, and it had 50,000 miles or 60,000 miles put on it a single year because multiple officers were driving it, that same multiple officers would put the same mileage on individual cars, right? Because they're gonna drive the same distances, just we're spreading it out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I'm tracking you, and yes, we're spreading it out into multiple cars, there's less wear and tear on the cars, and they're sitting for days on.
Right, so that we're basically, each car maintenance cost and mileage is gonna be reduced. But we're actually increasing the amount of mileage we're putting on the vehicles because. We would also be talking about letting them drive home back and forth to work.
But there would be limits on that anyway, right?
Is there gonna be a distance limit?
So Winthrop uses within 30 minutes of the station. Farmington uses within 30 miles of their station. Saginaw Sheriff's Office, we can take it out of the county if you live in a neighboring, basically attached to Saginaw County. So the average officer in Topsham lives, I believe it's 12 miles away from the station. We have one officer that lives 35 miles away, then the next furthest is 25, and then the rest are all pretty much 22 and down. We only have 4 officers that live in town. So yes, we would have to set a limit. And in addition, what I would propose is if somebody lived outside the limit and we were going to allow them to take a car home, that we use the federal mileage reimbursement that our officers get if they take their own car somewhere, except reverse it. And if they're beyond whatever mileage we decide is the limit, that they then have to pay back, because it's an obvious benefit to them. And before I forget, Ryan, what I'll have to do is talk to Farmington and Winthrop again, because they said they do everything line item like we do. And they said that their maintenance costs have gone down, so.
Per car or overall?
No, as a line item, it's gone down, so.
Well, the key is the fact that those cars are not being used on the days off of the officer.
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's more cars to maintain.
Correct.
So there's 6 additional cars that have reduced maintenance because they're being used less. We get to keep them a little bit longer, but the fact that we have more cars. We're gonna still have to pay more gas because they're gonna do the same mileage plus going back and forth to home.
Right, except their mileage, I would argue no, because for 3 days, they're just sitting there. Not being driven, like the example I used with car 7, which it's a single user car that's, going back and forth, but versus a car that's just constantly on the road. But yeah, let's give and take. Again, I'll have to ask Farmington and Winthrop, they're the ones I can go with right now because they changed a number of years ago. But they both said their line item for vehicles has gone down on maintenance.
Do you have a figure for like mileage per shift? I mean, roughly, how many miles does an officer put on in the shift?
And
That might simplify.
what do I do? No, it's roughly 2,000 a month we're putting on our cars. So I can give you that we put roughly 2,000 miles on a car every month. So 24,000 a year is roughly what we're doing.
Chief, thank you. At this moment, how many individuals, I know you and the lieutenant each have a vehicle that's solely for you. And you said there's one for shared supervisors, they share one, and then you said the school officer has one.
So I'm sorry.
So my
Okay.
question is, since we have additional cars, is it possible to maybe have detectives or sergeants have cars in this interim period to see how this is gonna work and have people, to try a trial, leaving enough cars for, obviously, for the officers?
Yeah, so right now 6 people take their cars home.
Okay, and who are those?
Myself, the lieutenant, both canines.
Okay,
It just doesn't make sense to
okay,
not have them, especially with Lucas, because he responds straight from the house. And the detectives, both detectives, they take their cars home because they respond straight from the house when we have.
and that leaves 6 remaining vehicles for the
Yes.
officers. Okay,
Yes.
so there are quite a few that have already.
So my math was that was a good question. So each car is getting roughly about 2,000 miles a month
Yes.
from multiple users. So we have 12 cars. And if each of them get 2,000 miles a month, we're doing about 24,000. If we had 18 cars, that would mean that each car would roughly get about 1,300 miles per month based on an individual driver. I guess what I'm illustrating is that the total mileage is still gonna be the same amongst all the vehicles. So the gas is gonna be the same, plus what they would go back and forth with to the home, even though the cars are sitting, there's more of them, and because of the circulation and how they drive. It's only just a point to make, it's not a for or against situation. And I do think that there will be independently, yes, the maintenance will be less because the mileages are less and they can last a lot longer, so we will save money in that 15-year mark, because we're no longer gonna be going a 2-1 split, hopefully, or maybe we might have to do like a 3-2 split or a 3-1 split every year, because after that 15-year mark, when all the cars hit that 7 years, we start rotating them. Right now, we're doing a 2-1. What would it look like after that 15-year split? Or after that first 7 years, when we got all the cars that we need for take home, let's say we had 18 vehicles, what does the rotation look like then, moving forward to maintain that fleet?
Well, I can partially answer that right now, which is doing the slow rollout. We couldn't do that. All our cars range from 2017 to 2026 with the one we just bought. So we'd be getting rid of them at different times anyway because of the mileage it's currently on our cars, and just they've been purchased at different times. So it's not like 7 years we get rid of, a whole group. It's still gonna be a slow process.
It depends on which one's beat up enough to get rid of.
Yeah, like some of our cars have significant miles on them now, again, because they're being driven constantly every day. So we're holding our own with the 2-1, but we're not driving 2-1.
I think it's just a very interesting concept. I'd like to dig into it just a little bit more to look at it from different perspectives. Because I do think it's gonna take a certain period of time, like you illustrated, to realize the savings. So we are gonna have to upfront money more so than what we're doing now to get to that point. Once the savings is realized, I mean, we gotta spend an extra $400,000. And hopefully to try to save 260. And once we get to that point, we're still, we still have to spend that extra 100 and whatever thousand. But what does the budget season look like after, let's say the slow rollout goes through, 15 years goes by, we're starting to realize, well, we finally realized the savings that we thought we would get. Now, what does it look like to maintain a fleet of 18 cars versus a fleet of 12? Granted, they could last a little bit longer. But there might be years, because there's 18 cars, that we have to replace 3, or maybe 4, or maybe just 2. I don't know if it'll ever be just 1, which is basically the concern. When we get to that longevity, having a larger fleet and having to maintain that fleet, will we ever be at a 2-1 cycle like we're at now, or will that cycle inevitably increase because we have increased cars?
But you have the other factor, which I think is the big one here, is the fact that if you're keeping the officers here for 8 years as opposed to 3.
Yeah.
And that experience factor, you can't put a value on it.
Great,
I think, at the end of the day, if we have a very well-run police department like we now, and now you have these folks that are here additional 5 years, and they're getting promoted and everything else. Think of the level this place could be, once you've added that factor back in. And there's no way you can say it's gonna be $18,000 a year or something like that, but the citizens will certainly see that.
The only issue I had going into this argument with you folks, or at least rolling it out to you, is I can't put a money amount on recruitment and who's coming here because of this program. And I can't give you a set money amount for retention, but I'll tell you it pays, because young people, this inexperienced people make bad decisions. It's the way it goes, and we try to get people through those first few years without making anything that hurts the town.
But if you're losing your top choice every single time because they went to another agency that had like this, you kind of like, what happens, what's interesting, what number one and that number two pick, right?
Right.
You know, they're using a future managers.
One thing I would caution us on too, though, is something like what we noticed in negotiations, we just raised the bar significantly.
Yeah.
And as soon as we did that, guess who else did it? The next union agreement, and then the next one, and the next town over went higher, and the next one over, I mean. Everybody gets pitted against each other, so we're just constantly raising the bar and trying to keep this recruitment with the idea that this is the one, this is what's gonna keep all of our guys. We would like to think that those are all true. But it's hard to say unless it's actually gone through, because I was also told. You know, strictly that raising the wages as much as we did was gonna help recruitment so much that we should have a full force. That's clearly, there's more to the story, right? And is this also a part of that story? And by no means am I saying that I don't want more law enforcement, I want the perks, I want the benefits. But I also wanna be fiscally responsible, and I wanna make sure that we're diving into this with detail more so than just. This could potentially save us X amount of dollars. I think it's worth looking into for sure. I do feel that, because yes, recruitment is a big deal, but I also don't wanna spend the money and then realize, oh, well, that didn't work. They're not sticking around because all of a sudden by the time we get this slow rollout. Somebody else the next town over realizes it and they didn't do a slow rollout, they did a quick rollout. And here we are with all these cars and still nobody in the seats.
Yeah.
But
No, good.
I think there's more to retention than money. And bonuses, money's a big measure of worth, we all know that, we all like it. But for years, or for the last 10 years. The manager, the board of selectmen, the finance committee, we went through this. Brunswick gives a $5,000 bonus, so we'll give us 6,000. We've played this game for so long and we're still at the same place in a sense. I am kind of interested in the cars. If that helps keep retention. But I think there's so many things that goes into retention, like the young person coming in and they decided that isn't really what they want, we've already invested in them. I think it's very dangerous. I don't think we as citizens, we expect so much, but we don't realize how dangerous, and a lot of young people don't wanna do it. And if they have a family, the family members don't want them to do it. So it's not just about money and about cars, there's many environmental factors that's going into this, and that's the way I see it. But for 10 years, we've played that game, more money because this town does it, or Portland does it, or whatever, and it has not solved the problem. I think, yes, it helps, but I think that there comes a point where all the towns should get together and say, look, no more, this is where we're at, this is what we're gonna do for ours, and it may be some consensus. But I'm not against the cars, I'm not trying to say that, but I just don't think one thing is gonna make us keep retention.
I have one final thought too, also one thing. None of this also negates the fact that there's a shortage of police officers nowadays. I would like to think that we in this town value the culture of our department as high as anything else, because we do have a very good force in this town, and they do really, really good work. If we're attracting somebody just because of a cruiser. If that doesn't play into our culture, we may invest money into somebody who's attracted to the wrong thing. Just another point to be made that maybe we didn't cover. Again, I'm interested in this, I think to dive into it a little deeper would be something that would be pretty good.
Yeah, no, and Ruth, to your comment, I don't take it personally. My job as the chief is to try to come up with some new ideas on recruitment,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve because if we don't, somebody else will. So
Is,
I roll it out to you.
is housing a problem?
Housing, there's a reason why there's only 4 of us living in town. Yeah, it's still difficult. I think it's slowly, the pendulum's coming back. It's just taking a little while. Yeah.
But I'd like to iterate, I think our police department is great, I think we've grown and we've come so good, and I think you've done an excellent job. After I tear that down.
Yeah.
No,
It's all
no,
good.
seriously, no, but I
We're rolling
seriously
out
do,
options.
there's so many good comments up there. You might not hear them, but we hear them.
No, I appreciate it. So it's an option.
Maybe this can be the last question. I think we've discussed this a lot.
Yeah.
And this is really directed to Jeff. When you signed Mark up for the Ask Risk program, what did you list for the place that he would run to? Yeah, really.
Oh, yeah, no, I was sworn to secrecy. I'm not gonna do
How are
that.
you gonna find him if?
Well, he's a little worried, too many people. I know where it is though, call me.
Okay, good.
We're good to go. I'll move forward here.
I've got my support for this, I've talked several years of people who applied for you. That gone to the sheriff's department and state police because they got a car. And they were good applicants here, but they left because they got a car. And they still work great, those departments, they're good officers. So I support this.
I don't disagree. It's a little bit superficial if that's why people are leaving, but I'm also trying to keep our staff up. So. All right, so the next thing that's gonna cost us a little money if we choose it. So canines. Canine Joby, patrol canine, not the one you can hug. Please don't hug canine Joby. You won't like that. So he turned 10 years old in September. Dogs generally at 10 are wearing down, and that's when they get retired. So he just turned 10 in September. We're looking at a new patrol canine. The cost for a new patrol canine is anywhere between $12,500 and $15,000. In addition to that, there's a canine school, which is 14 weeks long, which is right now, we'll be looking at $3,360 just for the school. That's just for the dog. Then the following year, after the dog's another year older, there's a drug detection school, which is roughly 8 weeks long. Again, we're looking at $2,000 for that school. And as far as Officer Sherland, who is our canine officer, overtime to go to a 14-week school and to go to an 8-week school, we would also be paying him while he was at those schools. So those are the upfront costs of just getting a new canine. Now you add in the annual canine costs. Over the last 3 years, we've averaged $3,000 for food, vet bills, kennel fees, canine insurance. I'm sorry, Ann, did you have any?
No, I do have a question, but I was just scratching my head.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. He also has 8 hours of mandated training per month per specialty. So in this particular case, Canine Joby is a tracking dog, and he also does building searches. That's part of the tracking piece, and he's drug detection. So what that means is 2 days out of every month, he's at training and not here. An additional pay that he gets is when the officers are on days off, they get 1 hour for care and maintenance of their dogs on days off. So every week, he's receiving another 3 hours of overtime pay for care and maintenance of the dog. From July to December of this past year, and I'm using July because that's when their pay changed with the new contract. For training and care and maintenance costs, there were 222 hours combined that registered at $16,469. So you add that same 2 days a month for the next 6 months, and after 1 full year, we've got $32,939 just in training. And this is real quick, the calls that we had last year in calendar year 2025, we had 45 calls. 22 were drug sniffs, 11 were searching for buildings or for people. There were 10 community events, 4 successful tracks on people that actually, you know what, this does include suspects, and there were 3 uses of force. So those were last year's calls. Positives of a canine program, You know, missing lost person recovery, obviously, officer safety when searching for dangerous suspects. If suspect safety due to the visible deterrent, so. People are in a building hiding, or people are in a small area of woods hiding. And they generally hear that dog, they tend to give up before running, although we've had a couple over the last few months that have chosen to run. But generally the suspect is safer because they don't end up in a foot pursuit and then a fight with them when they see the dog and give up. Rapid suspect apprehension. We again, from people that are running, narcotics detection is also what he's trained for. So those are the positives of the program, but we know that it comes at a price. So back to the start here and open it up for questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The current handler who has Toby
Yes.
would be the handler of the new dog?
Yes, there's no reason, he doesn't have any. If we had an issue going on with a dog or something, we would probably look at changing him out. He has experience, he's 10 years, because he got the dog 10 years ago, so he's got 10 years experience. The state police have actually asked him, he has been helping them train dogs because of his experience, and he's considered a very good canine officer, so.
I've seen him at the National Day Out work.
Yeah,
Doing
yeah.
a really good job. That was, my question was not the qualifications of him. My question was, what happens to Joby? Does he stay with him even though he has a new dog? Does that impact the relationship of a new dog? Because he's not gonna be on the back burner, we'll be going with him all the time.
No, that's what usually handlers would do, is
They
they
would
would keep
keep
the
both
dog
dogs.
and, yeah, get a new dog, and other than the fact the dogs are very unhappy when the owner leaves, and that dog for the first time in 10 years is being left home. But other than that, it hasn't, none of the canine handlers I've known over the years have had a big issue.
So what happens during the retirement time? Do we still support feeding that dog? It's now then the owner's responsibility. He
We
becomes the.
paperwork that says this dog is now yours, your responsibility, everything.
I was just wondering how that all works.
Yeah. But I will, just to shoot back to your initial question. He doesn't necessarily have to be the handler all the time, but the, you know, for all the time moving forward. The issue is we've got 10 years of experience built into him right now, so.
Isn't it better for the dog to have the same handler? Because they're used to commands, used to sounds
Yeah.
and.
Yes, I'm sorry, what I meant to say is if we have a new dog, it would be just have the one handler.
Oh, okay.
With him having 10 years experience, you know, I talked a few minutes ago about experiences, generally only one way to get it. He's got 10 years of it, and apparently the state police see him as useful enough that they've added him to their training program, which is no small feat, to be honest with you, for them to bring in an outside person.
Do they? Go ahead.
I'm just curious to know if the dog has to go through all this extensive training, why the initial cost of a dog is so high?
The breeders that have the dog, they keep it for up to a year. So we don't get the dog like a Garver who was 12 weeks old. They, much like our field training program, right? So we had somebody that didn't quite make it through the program. We didn't see what they needed. We didn't see what we thought they needed to be a good patrol officer. Canine breeders have their dogs and they keep them to a certain point to see, let's say, aggression. If you've got a dog that's not aggressive at all, then you don't want that as patrol canines. So they end up with a lot of dogs that don't make the cut. So there's a lot of time and energy that they're putting into when the dog is very young, training this dog to see, is it gonna make it or not? Because it's not good for a trainer if he's selling dogs that aren't gonna make it.
When our officer was going up to do the trainings with the state police. Was that a calculation that was a part of the training here, or is that above and beyond? Are we paying for that, or is the state paying for that?
I can tell you the state is not paying for it, so
So we're volunteering him?
yes. Up until July, we were letting him go up when they had a school going. he was going there more often. It became a financial issue for us, so after July, we'll let him go once a month if we can, if we don't have to replace it. It's basically, so he's going up twice a month because his dog needs to be trained. And we're trying to let him go again. Part of our retention program is if somebody's got something they're interested in, and we want to keep them. So it's a give and take with that.
So there could be additional costs. More so than 33,000 roughly a year associated with having a dog, canine.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there could always be something additional.
So Mark, are we the only ones that have a canine, between all of our towns?
Brunswick had two, they have two, one is retiring, I think in the fall, but they still have one. Saginaw is looking at, well, Saginaw doesn't have one right now. Lisbon has one that only does drugs. Bath doesn't have one, they did, but they're looking. State police have two in our area right now.
Right, so do we ever answer, use the K9 for other towns?
Yes. Yeah, hey, we don't charge them and they don't charge us, like if Lucas is off and Brunswick's got one working, Brunswick, will come over, saying we help them, same manner.
Did your 45 calls include assisting other towns?
Yes.
So conversely to that thought, could we call another town to use their key?
Yes,
We could if we didn't have one.
yes.
Can you go to the slide that showed the positives? Please. On these calls for service that we had, 45 total. Of those 45, would the outcome have been different without the dog? Granted, it may have looked different in getting to the point of outcome, but would the outcome have been different? Like the arrest that we made, if we didn't have the dog on site, would the arrest still have been made? Although it might have been a little different the way that it was enacted upon.
That would be difficult to tell you because if the officer, so what Lucas will do is if an officer has a traffic stop and he's working, he can show up and do a walk around the car. And if the dog hits on something, then we have probable cause to go in the car. But if the officer just on a traffic stop, if for some reason we're not suspecting drugs, or the person says no, and while we're dealing with that, Lucas does a walk around, the dog could hit and we'd have more to go with. If the person says no, and guess what, you're not searching my car, then we're not searching the car. So I can't give you I really can't give you a definite on that.
I was thinking more of the use of force or chasing somebody down that was running away that may not have run away because there was a dog. If there was no dog and they chose to run away, would we have still gotten them?
So 2 of those were in other towns. One was in Brunswick. They had some car burglaries. Person was off in the woods. They couldn't find him. Lucas went over with the dog and went into the woods and found him. So that one was
Dog related.
dog. The other was in Lisbon. There was a chase and car crashes into a building in Lisbon. 3 people get out, 3 people from Florida get out, running all different directions. And he was able to get what ended up being the driver again in the woods. Nobody knew which direction to even go in. So granted, they're out of Topsham calls. I can tell you 2 of those probably would not have been caught without the dog.
So were most of these calls out of town?
I would have to go back and the majority of the calls, I believe were Topsham, but I would have to go back and look into each call to tell you how many were Topsham, how many were other towns.
Okay. Thank you.
Just have one question about drugs.
No, you can't.
Just say no.
How much did we found? I mean, as far as taking drugs off our street, Topsham.
I don't
have any, it's gotta be a positive thing to have,
Yes, I couldn't give, I don't.
but I mean, it happens.
Yes, oh yes, we have this, we're a nice, small town, very safe town. But we have the same issues that every other town in the state of Maine has. And especially we get a little more because we're on 196 between Lewiston and Brunswick. And also 295. You'd be shocked how many people stop at a couple of our stores headed north or headed south that we keep coming into contact with.
I just think it's important for people to know that's a big thing.
Yeah,
Get that stuff off our streets as best we can. It's stuff that's not talked about.
right.
And people don't really realize it until something really bad happens, but this is the day-to-day things.
Yeah, we're dealing with the same
Yeah.
people, the same drugs that other places are dealing with. In fact, some people we dealt with just under a year ago were just involved in a shooting in a town not too far from ours. So we're dealing with the same stuff. It's just, and they're coming through town. You know, the numbers on people going up and down the highway or the 196 are pretty hefty. So
What do you hear about the bridge? They gonna replace that second door?
in Brunswick,
Yes.
I don't know. That officer's retiring, dog's retiring with him, so I'm just not sure. Brunswick's got more money than God. I assume they'll replace it. Maybe get 2 more dogs. I don't know.
No, they don't.
I heard that Joby's out sniffing all the cars out in the parking lot right now.
Mostly just Mike's actually, so. I'm managing shit, right?
Just looking for Mark.
I'd rather have Garber find me. Actually, Garber can't find me, but your Kenny's dog can find me.
Break into a deli and you take off running, Garber's gonna find you. So again, I know it's expensive, what it comes down to is on this one. What's it worth to the town to have the dog? You know, I don't want the scare tactic thing out there. What's it worth to have Joby going into the woods after a suspect that may be armed than having our officers going blind with flashlights? So it's all stuff to think about. I get it, but those are 2 proposals we like, or I ask everybody to think about.
Joby's not our first dog. We've had this program in place for a long time, right? Did we have the sergeant before?
Sergeant Ramsey had 2,
Yeah,
I believe.
so this is something we've done for a long time.
Yes.
This isn't
Correct.
stuff.
Sounds like, who do we start planning for future to talk about money with for the board of lines?
We've committed to that. We ought to stay committed to
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you all.
it. Thank you, Chief.
Next, interim chief safety officer with the fire department. Down there, we're gonna
Hello.
page 25.
No.
Sorry.
26.
Hey, still like policeman.
All right, interim chief, Nikki St. Pierre. Most of you have met before. Starting from the top, staffing wise, we have a fire chief that should be filled very quickly, soon. Deputy fire chief, 8 full-time fire EMS personnel, 30 per diem call. Firefighters approximately. We currently have 3 Southern Maine Community College college students that are living at the firehouse throughout the academic year. We have 1 full-time community paramedic and we have 1 search and rescue canine, Kenny G. That's it. Currently for our call volume, our calendar year in 2025, we had a total of 468 fire calls, 1,858 EMS calls, for a total of 2,326 calls for the year. 502 of those calls were through our community paramedic, and the rest were through 911 EMS calls. Elizabeth's been very busy and she's been doing some wonderful things for our citizens. Touching base on our revenues. Our actual revenues for about 2025 is $605,219 that we've taken in. We're recommending our revenue for 27 to 28 to be about $566,000 in total, conservatively. To touch base on some of our increases you'll see in our budget, overall payroll and overtime, the increase there is just your usual yearly % raise increase. We are also looking at adjusting for holiday pay change changing our holiday pay or holiday time off to match the other public safety with police department so that the police officers and the firefighters are the same. It changes the way that they receive their holiday time hours, so that's gonna adjust the cost of our payroll just a little bit. I think it's a good bonus for our firefighters. It's another recruitment piece, just gives them a little bit more money in their paycheck, and it also allows them to swap out some potential holiday pay for some time off. They need kind of that moment to kind of recollect. Our professional services is a little bit increased, but it's also in line with our revenue line. We get charged 6% fee for all of our revenues that we receive through our billing company, so they kind of go hand in hand there. Our leases and licenses line, that is gonna go up this year. It's just because our Zoll monitors, which is our cardiac monitors, their warranty and preventative care maintenance plan is redoing for another 5-year contract, which averages $5,851 a year. So that is what's affected our leases and licenses line. I've also reorganized a few things that were in our previous budget, so that they fall in the appropriate lines. So that's why you're gonna see a little bit of a percentage change. Under vehicle maintenance, the average age of our engines and ladder tanker are about 13.5 years. So our engine 1 is 9 years old, engine 2 is 11. Our ladder is 14 years old, and our tanker is now 19 years old. We have a little bit of an aging fleet. The average age of our ambulances is 9.5 years old at 16, 10, and 3. So we've added an additional $10,000 base on them, just going off of our previous year's cost for maintenance. We're just expecting it to continue to increase just because the fleet is aging. As of right now, we're kind of halfway through their lives. Our EMS equipment line has also been increased by $5,000. That's basically because we're taking in the delivery of our new ambulance, should come in October or November. And that's replacing our Rescue 1, which is the 16-year-old ambulance, which means most of the equipment on it is also at least, if not more, 16 years old. So that's just helping offset some of the costs of replacing some of our older equipment, organization, things like that. Any questions?
I would just point out that especially with our ambulances, I suspect that the mileage is getting higher and as we're going to Maine Med all the time.
Yeah, and they're
That's different.
other than Rescue 3 right now, which is our newest one, the other two are over 100,000 miles.
So people understand that the whole different.
They got a lot of mileage.
Faster because of that.
And they're big vehicles, they're heavy vehicles, and you're usually not going slowly wherever you're going for an emergency.
When you get, I have a question, when you generate revenue from emergency services, who gets billed for that? Is the taxpayer?
We typically will bill the insured, the taxpayer. It goes to their insurance companies, so a lot of your taxpayers are dual insured in this town, so they oftentimes have medical insurance as well as a Medicare. And whatever the contractual allowance we have to take off their bill through our agreement with insurance companies. And then whatever your insurance plan covers, you may have a small fee that you have to pay, you may have to reach a percentage, and that gets billed to the taxpayer. Makes sense. For our capital projects, we'd like to do a dry hydrant project for about $8,000 is our estimate. That's the picture's kind of in, for those who aren't familiar with dry hydrants, it's our way of doing a rural water supply. So the area in town that is not covered by actual fire hydrants, we have to draft water out of sources. So currently, we'd like to repair or replace the dry hydrants we have on West Merrill Road. The dry hydrant we had at Route 201 at the Cadence River crossing that disappeared when they did the bridge work over there. And East Schoolhouse Cross Road, that one's been out of service for over 20 years now, and that doesn't leave us a water source on that side of town, an easily accessed source. So we would like to use this project to try to get those back in service. Depending on how the expenses go to get those 3 main ones done, we'd like to take the monies left over to build new dry hydrants off of Head of Tide Park and Forsyth Road, ideally at the Muddy River or at Pleasant Point. In that direction, that'll give us more access to water on those sides of town. The next item is our Life Arm XR. It's our CPR device. It's the equipment that we use for cardiac arrests. They were able to put it over a patient and it does the compressions for us so that our staffing can be utilized for medication and treatment and whatever else is needed on scene. We currently have one. We would like to get a second CPR compression device to add to our fleet so that our 2 lead rescues can each have one at all times. This idea is because right now we only have one, it hangs on a wall inside the firehouse. So if for whatever reason we have an engine and a rescue out already, if a cardiac arrest comes in, we have to rely on hopefully maybe getting a police officer to come back and get it. We have staffing come in, they can grab it, or if we're already on a call that already limits the amount of personnel you have. So this turns into one more person. It's kind of a win-win for the town and our taxpayers to make sure we get both of our lead ambulances can at least carry them. Any questions on this page?
So these are actually in the budget, correct?
Yes, these are all in the budget, yes. My next capital item that's in the budget is for our engine 2 pump repair. If you remember correctly, engine 1 had a pump repair in this last budget cycle. This one has a leaking pump as well. It's been repaired several times. It's just now at the point for a full overhaul. And so that, judging off the pricing we just paid for engine 1, we're estimating it's gonna be about another $35,000 to do engine 2. Our next item is the battery powered extrication tools. We'd like to replace our current hydraulic tools with Genesis brand battery powered tools. It's what we replaced the tools on engine 2 with last cycle. It's gonna reduce emissions, the equipment maintenance, operability and efficiency. We don't have to drag a whole pump, all the hydraulic lines and tools down to a car accident to extricate a patient. We can take one tool. And we want to replace the spreader and the cutter that is in the engine for this year. Next item is car 2 replacement. So we were able to replace the other chief's vehicle last cycle around. We'd like to replace the current one, which is a 2016 Ford Expedition. It's currently got a little over 80,000 miles on it. We'd like to replace it with a matching Chevy Tahoe with the one we just got. The $80,000 should include or should cover the costs included for radios, mounting equipment, lights, command board and rear command units as well for that vehicle.
So I have a question. So other MD tenders, all whites need to be replaced.
So that one is starting to have some maintenance and rust issues. Our maintenance fleet services has said, are you gonna replace this thing sometime soon? Because it's gonna start costing you money. It's not set up to be a command vehicle. It was originally set up as the EMS chief's vehicle. So it does not have a fire department command center in it and the additional radios. And it's aging and it's starting to have some maintenance issues. So replacing this one should last quite a while and it's gonna be appropriately equipped for a chief's vehicle.
Why do we need a Tahoe?
It's big enough to carry all the command unit stuff. We could probably look at an Expedition.
Because remember, Mike, remember when you got that Expedition, we went back and forth. And you might have that need to.
Oh, the second one.
Yeah, the trailer, what's the trailer that the town's got.
I remember that.
And we went back and forth, and you said, no, we need a bigger truck to hold this trailer when Expeditions, in my opinion, and those that can play out, would be just as capable of pulling that much weight, so that's why I bring it
Well, at
up.
the time, we were on part of the department, and the rescue was separate and the boat was ours, and yes, things have changed now, it's combined, but. I still.
That's the reason I
still think this vehicle size and what we do with, still needed. Ford or Chevy, I don't know which one it is, but it's the vehicle, that size vehicle, is the only way Brunswick or the big Cadillac, one vehicle. Or
The XLs.
whatever they call them, I don't know what they are. Next step up from the Suburban. The Suburban, yeah, the big, will be a big. That's it.
No,
So,
it's big enough to be able to actually hold the command units in the back, plus turn out gear and additional staffing if we need to bring additional crews.
I have used it in the past for command vehicle and EMA response to everything else, so everything fits in there, just not really mounted. They want to probably mount to have available all the time.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good idea.
Be safer.
How much of a difference in the cost between the Ford and the Chevy?
I think we were just specking out our last ones. I don't even know if Expedition was available in a special service unit right now. I think the Chevy is what's available in the special service unit right now, or you can do Ford Explorers, which is significantly smaller, which is what our current car one that we traded in for our community paramedic vehicle, very small. It's not ideal for fire department command centers.
What was the price of the other vehicle, Ford Expedition bought?
The one we just bought, we have that one in a $75,000 and we're gonna be right up to the dollar, making it work.
Community paramedics?
Oh, that one, the one we got with the grant,
State did one, what price that, you remember that one?
I don't remember, I have to go look. I can't remember off the top of my head what we spent on it, cause we spent the entire grant amount on that one and then we used money out of our maintenance line to finish.
Tahoe was not the biggest.
No, it's not.
No,
It's a step down from the biggest, which if you're familiar with what Brunswick has, that's the biggest, we're not doing that.
It's all compatible with the
This
Expedition.
is,
we could tow or a boat or anything if we need to, and then it's big enough to use as a community vehicle. Any other questions? All I got.
Hey, I now I got questions. So I was wanting to make sure you're all finished with your finance. That is, it's well over $200,000 increase over last year in the budget.
11%.
So my question is, I know you have to keep up with everything to keep safety and all that and keep you folks safe. And I don't disagree with that, but that seems like quite a big, is there anything without hurting? Not replacing or not doing something this year that could be maybe put in another year, like next year?
Actually, can I take a crack at that one?
Absolutely.
No.
I've been having trouble sleeping in May and June the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Because the fire department was going over budget. And the reason why is it hadn't been budgeted appropriately. What we've tried to do is actually get what they need, so we don't, the fire department has gotten bailed out by the police department in the past couple of years. The unfilled positions in the police department left a little bit of money there that was offsetting the fire department. We went into this budget season trying to actually budget enough to cover what the fire department's really doing. So that's one of the reasons it's up more.
You know, if it's any consolation, I just moved into the Highlands. And I'm not even there 6 months and they just raised my rent 9%, so it doesn't seem to me that what you're asking for is unreasonable, to be honest.
No, and as a new chief kind of looking in, I've had to relook at the budget and kind of make sure that things have been appropriately accounted for, and I did find some different things that maybe weren't in the budget like they needed to be, so I've tried to adjust appropriately so we don't go over.
I'm not saying you don't need that. We have, again, I think our fire department personnel, just like our police and public works, I think they're all great. But I just see a lot of things here tonight. And I'm just asking because this does, and I know we're looking at maybe a 4% increase on our taxes, but
Well, there's gonna be a time to ask for manpower too, aren't you?
right.
Yeah, and we actually opted not to ask for that this year because we know that we're trying
All
to be.
forces are down, volunteers are.
Our call force is down to almost none. We actually truly need 4 more, but we chose to kind of forego that for this year.
And the dog, or not the dog, when you had the program that you got grants from the state for the person, if they call and they're having high blood pressure or something, and you can.
Our community paramedic,
Yeah,
yeah,
is that still in place?
it was originally grant funded and then this last cycle, we've now made her a full-time employee. That's like, yeah, so we can make sure we retain that awesome piece of our.
Oh, okay.
So she's now a permanent full-time employee with benefits.
I just wanted to thank the EMS and paramedic service because I actually used the service this year. It wasn't on my 5-year plan. I developed heart disease and they brought me.
Okay. That was a good experience. That's right.
I have 2 really, hopefully quick questions. Starting on the line item of overtime. There's been a pretty big jump of 40%. about $40,000 in addition to what was allocated last year. Is there, I guess, what's the reason for that big of a jump? Do we just not have enough people? Or are we looking at hiring more? Or just in general, why is that overtime so high?
I believe, Kathy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but by changing our holiday pay, the potential for increasing overtime for people who might take time off is there. So is that correct? So we're just trying to account for that. It may not even happen or be an issue, but we wanted to make sure that it was there in case it does. But that's what's created some of the overtime change.
And that's just a policy change that you guys are trying to make within for.
Yeah, because we aren't able to add staffing this year, so we're trying to increase other incentives.
And that makes sense. I just, it seems like a large number overall for overtime, considering our full-time pay is 700,000. Our part-time payroll is 500,000. And then overtime's another 146. Is there a way to reduce that by adding a full-time or a part-time employee? Would there be a cost savings? Overtime is time and a half.
That was
so-
an argument used by the former chief a couple years ago when we switched to more full-timers. That's part of the reason we had the budget issues that we've tried to cause me not to sleep at night. The problem with counting on the per diems is we've had some days we even had full shifts because they get called to their full-time job.
Yeah.
So the people we can count on that are most likely to come in and fill our empty shifts are the full-timers who are gonna get paid overtime. But probably about 30,000 of that number is because of the change in the holiday stuff to treat the firefighters like the police officers. So that's a big chunk of it, right, Kathy?
And truly, it's a hit or miss, and I can fill an open spot if it's gonna be a overtime position with one of our full timers, or if I'm able to get one of our per diems to cover it, that's not gonna throw them into.
Is per diem covered in that overtime line?
Yes.
The last question I have, this was just a curiosity thing for me. I noticed that a lot of the departments have this line item called other benefits. And I meant to ask Chief Hagan this when he was up at the podium and I forgot, but yours has a 61% increase of other benefits. And for a total of an ask of $9,545. Can you help me understand what other benefits are?
Yeah, I have to refer to Kathy.
Yeah, I calculate it. Basically, we have the sick buyback policy. So that people can buy back if you don't. You can buy back half your sick time that you didn't use the current year. So basically, I take all the people that are eligible for it in the department, and then I apply a 33%. Because not everybody takes it.
Are they required to keep a minimum amount of sick leave or?
Nobody has to keep a minimum amount,
No.
if you're here and you burn your 96 hours, you can get paid out. Whatever it is,
Jeff and I were used to
40.
places, and as was Chief Hagan or Brunswick, where you couldn't sell it back annually, but you, at the end of your career, you get a third of it paid out. So there's incentive to keep it, not use it all.
Yeah.
I had a coworker who used to burn all his sick time every year, and his answer to me was, when you're all done, you get a third of yours, I get 100% of mine. During COVID, we experienced people that I would have rather seen stay home sick, but weren't because they wanted to make sure they got as much money as possible. So as we approach the union negotiations starting after COVID, we've been able to get it out of number of the contracts. So it's no longer in the IAM operations or supervisors, the annual buyback, and we switched it out with you get a third at the end of your career. I'd like to do that in the personnel policy. We've got a number of changes that we're kind of working on. We want to bring back to the select board. But Dennis is still here, unfortunately, but from a fiscal perspective, I figured you guys wouldn't be too thrilled with me if I changed the personnel policy just before I lost 4 department heads that have been here for 20 years with a fair amount of sick time built up to pay it all on a third. Because you'd be like, I thought you said this was gonna save money. But in the next year or so, once we finish our wave of retirements, I'd like to come back, I'll come forward to the select board and suggest that we change the personnel policy to get rid of the annual buyback, so people are. Have incentive to bank their sick time, so when something bad happens, it's sitting there. Because the other thing that happens is, we have had people that have something bad happen, they don't have much time sitting there because they kept getting money for it every year. So I think it's cheaper for the town. If you save it till retirement, when you retire, you can get paid for a third. I also think it encourages better planning on the behalf of the employees and stuff. So for now, the other benefits there, but we have been cutting back on the number of people that qualify for it.
So this is maybe a one-time budget request. I'm just looking, historically, it was in 23, it was 1,700, in 24 it was 1,400, in 25 it went up to 45. And then 59, then now 95. Just looking at that trend, sounds like.
I hope by next year we won't have to budget anything.
Yes, yeah, okay.
And we did slowly add full-time employees over those years as well, so
Yeah.
that's gonna add to your recent number.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for those clarifications.
Anything else?
I think that's a good plan. On the buyback.
Just before Deputy Chief St. Pierre leaves, I just want to recognize her in front of everyone. When we lost our fire chief the end of December, I approached her and said, would you be willing to step in as our interim chief? And without hesitation, she agreed. She's been doing the job of two people for the past few months. Maybe sort of before that too, but so she's been doing all the budgeting things as well as keeping the department running. And I really appreciate the hard work and the dedication she's shown in town, so thank you. So tomorrow night, I might call on Groundhog Dennis to give us his weather forecast. What do you expect for the day tomorrow?
Be quiet. It shouldn't be too bad. Supposed to be, the worst of it's gonna be over before daylight in the morning, what it looks right now.
So my plan would be, just like tonight, there was a hybrid option. If someone doesn't feel comfortable coming in, they can certainly join by Zoom and we can take comments by Zoom. So as long as people are comfortable with that, we'll plan to stay on schedule for tomorrow night.
I didn't get rid of some callers, they said, I spoke to them,
They said-
she said, I have Zoom tonight.
Yeah, so it's been on and there'll be a link for tomorrow too, so.
Where do you put it? Cause I wasn't, just in case.
It's on the town calendar on the front page of the website, but I don't usually put it up till a couple hours before the meeting. So if you look at noon, you would find it. You look at the order, so. What we got?
Good.
Good.
Meeting was a lot, private, separate.